And we're live.
And we're live.
Episode 9.
I told you I'm done counting. You're the counter. You're the official ticker.
I think it's 9. Honestly, so it's Sunday again. And I
It's
feel like
Sunday.
we haven't filmed an episode in like 3 weeks.
Well, as you know, I've been out, so it feels like a month for me, but let's roll the intro and get into it.
Sounds good.
Yesterday at one point, I was in 6th.
How are you doing?
I'm actually really good. Everything's been pretty good over here for the most part.
Still, I guess it's been raining every day over here while I've been gone. That's how the wife, finds an excuse not to water the garden.
Yeah, well, I can't say we've been much better for weather, honestly, but it's been good. Been busy trying to get bikes rebuilt, find parts. Had some trouble with finding parts.
That's what happens when you buy one of them exotic European bikes and, put it in the grass.
Yeah. Well, so I thought I was going to need all new fairings, and I think eventually I'll still replace them all. But for now, we're just getting a new front end because I realized that there's a bracket broken that holds the windshield on in that front end. Not just the fairing, but the actual bracket for it. Ordered a new front end for now, and I think we're going to glue everything else back together. Should hold pretty well for a while. But yeah, I will say in 2019, right, they threw the 1100 Tuono engine in the RSV4. And then they put wings on it and said, this is the factory now. 1100 factory, right? And then in 2020, they put new stickers on it. Shoved it out again, pretty much exactly the same though. And then in 2021...
That's a very Honda thing to do.
Well, it's not Honda, but yeah.
This is all new, now in white.
Right? But then in 2021, right, Aprilia, we're talking about the Aprilia here, switched over and made a completely new, right? They flipped the swing arm upside down. They put all new fairings on it. And then they had the 1100 and the 1100 factory, and that's it. And so for 2 years, they made the bike that I have. And really, like if you get down to the nit and gritty, technically only 1 year exactly how I have it. So it has been extremely difficult to find fairings outside of just ordering them straight from Aprilia, which instead of getting a set for, 1,000 and 1,500, you're paying 800 per piece almost. So yeah, that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we should be getting that put back together hopefully later this week. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, real world problems. You can't just eBay those, huh?
Well, that's where I got the front end. So
Oops.
yeah, honestly, it looks I gave it a good look over. It's got all the fairings are there, no broken pieces, no scratches, no nothing. Came with a windshield, so not bad. I'll have to, yeah, we'll see. I gotta wash the bike down and then pull all the parts off and hopefully glue them back together. I think I will still have to buy the tail cowl though.
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? If you're not wrecking, you're not improving. That's what I always was told.
That's what they say. Well, I got another comment today about my tires.
Yeah.
Which I've never been a Metzler guy, and I don't know that you are either. But when I first got them, they had what I would call like track wear on them, and they looked pretty reasonably sporty. I looked them up, and Metzler doesn't call them a sport touring tire, but they do say they're on the longevity side and good for all weather conditions and things like that. So maybe more on the touring side.
Right.
And then I got another comment that said, with those tires, no wonder you wrecked. And I was like, ooh, okay, interesting. So maybe
Note to self.
Yeah. Maybe that is where that issue was. At this point, I'm kind of going to just say, yep, it was the tires, and gives me a good thing.
I'm not going to let you off that easy, homie.
Well, hey, I was looking at getting new tires anyway. I don't have an issue with Metzler, but I've never been a Metzler guy, so We were
Now, back off. Hold on. Let's talk Metzler's just a little bit. So the Husqvarna has Metzler's from the factory, and they have no problem holding the power down.
the power,
The power,
all of it, all what,
all 40 or
70,
so
40?
horses.
Yeah, not even. Yeah. Oof.
So Metzler, my understanding with Metzler is they're just the cheap version of a Pirelli. They're made in the same factory.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
So one would assume that they're the same rubber as Pirellis. Now, on the side of maybe it's more of a sport touring tire, that's fine, but that's not to say Metzler don't make good sticky rubber.
Right. Yep.
I think they do, just maybe not that one.
Yeah, that's basically, and I haven't done a ton of research yet, but that's basically the conclusion I came to. And I don't know. I like Dunlop and I like Michelin, and I don't have Pirelli money, so probably not going to
Well,
put Pirellis on there. And I've just never even done the research on Metzler. I know what Dunlops I like. I know what Michelin's I like, so that's probably where I'll stick
so you
to.
bought that bike used. How many miles did it have on it?
49 or 52, somewhere between 4 and 6,000.
So they were really in good shape. So it's probably second set.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not stock tires.
So who knows? That guy might have been cross country and your poor bike might have had some big old bags on the side of it. And
Yeah. On that, with all the carbon that he threw on it and everything else. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you never know with a used bike where it's been before, but he had an airbag clip on there for the suit. The airbag
yep.
suit, it had a clip underneath. It had, oh, I don't remember. I want to say it had the plug-in for an AIM solo data logger. Or not the
That was
solo,
the
but the
plug-in for his GPS you've now discovered.
yeah. So he could keep track of where he was going across country.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you thought that guy was talking to truckers at truck stops.
I would not. So I didn't move the
Might
foot
have been a
pegs.
CB plug-in.
I did not move the foot pegs when I bought this bike. And I would not want to ride that across the country with how he had it set up. So just putting that out there. But
Yeah, he might have been shorter than you.
yeah, I'm pretty short.
I'm just saying it would be.
I can, well, so when I went and got the suspension adjusted, we actually ended up, I lowered it 10 mil in the front and 5 in the rear, which, in accordance with whatever they told me to do. Because I asked him, I was like, hey, I shouldn't lower a bike. Don't want to throw off the geometry, but I'm short. This bike's tall. And I don't like tiptoeing, teeter-tottering back and forth at stoplights. And I'm probably going to have it on the road a good bit. And he was like, well, yeah, you could actually take 10 mil out the front and probably 5 in the rear, and you'd be good to go. And I was like, all right, cool. So I actually brought it down. So if he was shorter than me, I don't know. Maybe he's doing the one leg flat and the other, way off to the side or whatever.
I've
We
seen
should.
some videos. You got to hop on one leg beside the bike at the stoplight.
So I don't know. I don't know if I should bring this up, but I've seen some vertically challenged people at the racetrack, and I don't have an issue with it, but I would love to talk to one because I seen a dude and I never saw anyone with him, and he was probably just over 4 foot, and he was out. I've seen him riding. He was riding an A group, I believe, and he'd come back, and I never actually caught him getting off the bike or back on the bike, but I always saw him walking around the pits and then saw him out riding on the track, and I was like, I just want to know what the process looks like. Is he riding a full size bike? And I'm short. Any tips and tricks for me would be helpful. And if you're a little shorter than me, or a lot, then obviously you know what you're doing better than I do. So, what are your tips and tricks?
Send him in. Send him the 2.5-gallon bucket trick.
Well, I'm just saying, like I said, I don't think I saw anyone over there, because if you have someone to get your stand and hold the bike and then you go, and it'd be whatever. But if you're on your own, like I have a hard enough time getting the bike off the stand. You got to hold it from the rear and then get on the bike, and it's a little. The worst is when you come back and your stand's too far away, and then
Yep.
you're like scooting the bike back and forth till you're close enough to hold the bike and grab your stand. So, or like there's been a couple times I've unloaded the bike from my trailer, gotten up to the garage, realized I didn't have the stand, backed the bike back down to the trailer, put it back in the trailer, took the stand into the garage, and then put it all back afterwards. So usually I'm pretty good now about making sure I have everything set up before I do that.
You talk like that, you're like 1 inch away from government funding.
Yeah. No, I'm not that bad. Not that bad. I'll claim 5.6 all day long. So
I know that's my problem with dirt bikes. You gotta
yeah.
find somewhere to crash it, and I don't know what's your inseam.
I have no idea. I've never measured it.
When you buy your pants, what's the length?
28,
All right,
maybe 29, but if it's 29 or more, it's got some wrinkles in the bottom. I'm
all right.
a 28, so
Well, that's shorter than I thought. I was gonna say your legs might be as long as mine.
yeah. No, I mean I'm pretty proportionate, but I'm not. I'm short. So did I tell you about the other new piece of equipment I bought?
No, you didn't tell me, but I heard through the grapevine.
The grapevine. Yes, the good old grapevine. Well, since we haven't told the audience yet, I guess picked up one of those Rabaconda tire changer things. I don't even know
Yeah,
what they actually call them.
I'll go with tire changer,
Yeah, I guess.
motorcycle tire changer.
Yeah. No, I'm pretty excited about it. Hasn't showed up yet. It's supposed to be here later this week, probably about the day this episode's coming out. So be on the lookout for that. Also, I don't think I'll do a how to change your tire episode because there's plenty of those out there on the interwebs.
I
But
think you should do it.
well, I
I
mean,
think you should. I think you should do it and say like, you should just send it to me and say, look, now I can change your tires without scratching the hell out of them.
okay, all right, easy.
On these bikes, never. Speaking of tire changing, when you're racing or doing track days, it's something to take into account. You're changing a lot more tires than you've been used to. I mean, I'm changing 25 wheels a year. Pull out your calculator, and if you take that to a shop, it's like $40 a whack.
Yeah. Well, that's like at the track. If you find someone, if you take it to a shop, it's usually a little more than that.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Well worth investing in the Anaconda. What's that thing called?
You just made me forget it.
Victory. So the there's a lot of tire changers on the market. Obviously, I have one from a
Rabaconda.
Rabo. What?
Rabaconda.
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 So I have one that you can pick up at your local Harbor Freight that's mounted in front of my shop. And there's a separate tire motorcycle tire changing adapter that you had to buy if you were going to change motorcycle tires. As is typical sometimes at Harbor Freight, that thing came out of the box once and been lost in a corner ever since. Does not work, but works great for like 4-wheeler ATV tires and razor tires, stuff like that. But
Makes sense.
I'm excited to see if yours works. Maybe I'll have to pick something up.
Yeah, I mean, I've been getting ads on Instagram for it for a long time, and if I remember right, when I first saw them, they were like a pre-order, and I was like, nope, I'm good. And then I've been sitting there looking at it. Every time I watch their little video, I'm just like, man, that looks so easy and so nice. I changed enough tires that it's got to be worth it. So
That's good. That's good marketing. We'll see if the substance is there.
yeah. I'll definitely do a good. We'll get a good review video on it and then test it out and see if it's worth buying. So, which I don't. It's it was a little over $600, so it's not like crazy. I will say they need to work on their shipping because they already sent me I ordered like one of their kits, so it came with bead grease and a brush and all that stuff. And
Right.
I got the bead grease and a brush already, but I don't have the tire changer yet. So I don't know if they're like pretty new, so they're making them per order maybe.
They're probably letting you know that if the rest of it doesn't come, you know what you can do with that brush and grease.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well,
that's about all the news I have, I think. Yeah.
well, I have all the caveats and excuses to be a little out of it today because I just got back from Germany
Yeah.
and was
And
able to.
what is that little
This is my ticket.
to?
The KTM Motor Hall.
Ooh, baby. Oh, baby.
So in the past, as you know, when I've traveled over there, I've got to visit the Red Bull
Museum?
Hangar 7,
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
and that's always been really neat. But I've seen it 15 times at this point. They seem to change stuff in and out. I highly recommend if you haven't been there and you happen to be in Austria, go ahead and check that out because it's really neat. But a lot of the old Dakar bikes in there.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the winning Dakar bikes are in there, and it was interesting because not to give too much away, but I travel with a lot of people when I go over there, and it was kind of funny. The number one question, because everybody on the trip knew I was into bikes, so the number one question was, "What are those big things mounted to the in front of the handlebars? Behind the window?"
The wings, I'm
No,
assuming.
the GPS boxes.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yep.
They're almost as high as the windshield,
Mm-hmm.
and they're funny because on a bunch of the bikes they still had them on there, but they're paper. They like print out paper. So basically, when you're doing the Dakar, that's a super long race. It takes a couple of weeks to get through. They do it in segments.
Mm-hmm.
A couple things, they don't want the riders getting lost, so they have extensive GPS on those because you're out on your own in the desert. They can't watch everybody.
Okay.
A lot of people, you can't see the course. You're just kind of so you're following a GPS.
Okay.
But
Makes sense.
the second part of that is there's a ticker on there because they're keeping track of you, so you don't, once you get off camera, somebody doesn't load it in the back of a trophy truck and drive through the night to get it to the next locale and say you made it. They
Gotcha.
have a lot of systems on there to monitor them, but it's funny because at least on some of the older bikes, they've got like two paper printers. It's got like the old clickers, like the old computer paper, and it looks like it's just feeding it through to show you where your next turn is. It's pretty neat, but everybody's like, "What is that? What is that?" So I was showing them, and then it's just funny. People that aren't into motorcycles, right? There's an MV Agusta in there. The Red Bull. It's the was that limited edition one they made. So there was an MV Agusta that came out. It's like 240 horse you could buy.
Probably a
It's one of them ones that only rich guys buy, and they
F4
put it in a
something,
garage. Yeah,
whatever they
put it
had
in
in
a
the
garage.
Batman movie.
Pretty sure it had Metzler's on it, just for the record. But
Here we go. Here we go.
some neat things in there. Not as much motorcycles related stuff as I remember. A lot of
N-
F1 cars.
Right, and that's
Um,
in the Red Bull, not the KTM, obviously. Right.
yep.
Okay.
Still on the Red Bull. So they had two of the Red Bull cars in there. For example, they had one from 2017, one from 2016, and I don't follow the F1 cars as much as I should some days, but it was just crazy that the engines on those things are like 1.6 liters making. I mean, it's
Mhm.
teeny little engine, and then the whole like drivetrain was 145 kilograms or something
Jeez.
listed on there. And just
The
looking, I
whole
mean,
you're talking engine, transmission, drive shaft.
I'm not sure. It lists like the engine. It says engine specifications, and then had like the horsepower ratings. But it talked about gearbox as well in the same.
Okay,
But then they listed total weight 145 kilograms.
that's insane.
But those things, they're the older ones. So this podcast is not about F1, so I don't want to get too far on a tangent. But
Yeah.
the newer cars have larger tires on them this year, and if you watch, they look kind of funny to me because you've been so used to they just have little teeny tires as far as diameter, so they only used to run 13-inch wheels.
Okay.
My understanding is that was to help kind of limit the how big of a brake they could put on it
Yeah,
to make
that makes sense.
to make them more competitive.
Right.
I can relate this to motorcycles. It was just interesting. Those cars, all the suspension, the A arms, everything on those cars, it's carbon fiber. But motorcycles, it's illegal in most classes to run a carbon fiber wheel, even though some of your high end, like you can get carbon fiber wheels from the factory on a BMW,
Right. Yep.
but
Like
they're
M package or whatever.
but they're not legal for racing
Right.
in most categories, and it's because if you change somebody's tire for them and you gouge it, that was a hit. Come on, give me some
Nope.
reaction.
Absolutely not. Nope.
So
You weren't talking to me. You were just saying, to the general public, if you tire changers out there in the audience.
don't make me put a name at the first. Okay.
Oh.
So
Okay, hang on. Let's clear this up. I did not put that
I
many
I
scratches in your
scratch the
rims.
hell out of every wheel I touch when I change it. But when you change somebody else's, you're supposed to be careful.
I actually used the little bead, rim guard, plastic, whatever things.
Listen, my $4,500 Gixxer is now only worth $4,450.
Yeah, I just won't touch the BMW, you know?
But they say, if you nick a wheel, for those listening, if you nick a wheel on a motorcycle, it has carbon fiber is just as strong as steel, rotational and all that kind of stuff. But if there's a nick or a defect or something in it, they can explode.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then it hurts the audience. It hurts the people around them. So they've just been outlawed. I hadn't really thought of that in reference to an F1 car because they are solid. I mean, they're carbon fiber everything, but not the wheels. It's just
Interesting.
something I
Yeah,
noticed that
that
I
makes
hadn't
sense.
really thought of.
Yeah, I mean, they're changing tires probably just as much. So that makes sense. Well, that's what's kind of crazy though too is a lot of I mean, take Honda for instance. They used to have the carbon fiber swing arm, and then they went back to aluminum. I think people used to be running carbon fiber frames for a little bit. They went back to aluminum because they needed the stiffness that aluminum gives you. So yeah, carbon fiber is a little lighter and stronger and whatever else it might be, but aluminum's coming back around. I guess I don't know.
We'll leave that one up to the engineers.
Yeah. I actually have never seen an F1 car in person. And I know this isn't an F1 podcast, but we'll bring it around, Mark the other week or month or year or whenever.
Hold
Well,
on. We're at 20 something minutes
yeah, we
and
made it
Mark's
20.
back here.
Yeah, he's back in.
All right. All
Right,
right.
but
Just
he
checking.
said he told MotoGP this isn't F1, be careful, blah blah blah, Aero, something along those lines. And everyone knows that an F1 car, if it didn't have its Aero, wouldn't be on the ground because it doesn't weigh enough for the amount of power it puts down, and it weighs more. But how much of that does it actually like how much do you actually see? How much is obvious that, oh, that's definitely an Aero piece versus it just looks like a car?
A lot. A
Okay.
lot. So imagine in your mind what the silhouette of an F1 car would look like
Mm-hmm.
looking down from the top.
Okay.
Let's say. What you don't realize is there's like a big plate across the whole bottom of the car that comes out much further than that silhouette you're thinking of. It's
Okay.
like on a Ferrari or a high-end Corvette, the whole bottom is covered so they can't get air underneath them.
Right.
Those cars have just like a giant plate of carbon underneath them.
Hmm.
And it extends, I don't know, on some of these cars, I mean, it's extending 7, 8, 10 inches out from the side of the car, just a flat plate to hold it on the ground.
Jeez.
And the wings, I mean, I can't even explain how much they must spend on, obviously, on Aero and stuff, but the wings will come around and there's like, it looks like a porcupine. There's like 15 little wings coming off of it in front of the front tire. And then the A arms are not just a bar trying to hold a tire on. The A arms have like a leading edge that's sharp, and it might come up and have wings built right onto the top of the A arms. There's Aero literally everywhere on that car.
Jeez. Okay.
The more you look at it, the more you see like just surfaces they build into it. And you see some pieces on the actual body of the car that are obviously carbon fiber,
Mm-hmm.
but the bulk of the car gets put in a wrap for their sponsors and logos and everything. So it covers some of that. I was just going to say, and then you look at the cockpit on that car. I also had multiple people ask me, like, where do they find the people to drive these cars? And, the first one that asked me, I said, what do you mean? Yeah. Easton, calling Easton.
Yeah, that's me. I'll gladly drive one. No, I would not. I don't think I have the what did you say the other week? The kahunas or whatever to
Cojones.
yeah.
Well, now we're speaking Spanish.
No, we only speak improper Italian here. That's all.
Improper. Okay, that's Italian for cojones. So the cockpit on that car is so small. Like I just look at it and I mean,
Oh yeah, because
it
they
would
move
be,
their steering wheel like what, maybe a half inch
yeah, they don't
or
move
what is
very
that?
far.
5 millimeter.
5 millimeters. So that cockpit is so small. All these, people that aren't into motorsports kept coming up. They think I'm the resident expert, which, everything I say is based in reality. And so I was just kind of making stuff up. But
Yeah. Well, when they don't know any better,
I
what
told him when
else
a
are you
horse
gonna do?
jockey retires, he goes to F1.
It might be the other way around.
Yeah, I don't know. You turn a steering wheel on a car, it goes where you tell it in theory, but a horse, there's another mind you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into that. Depends on who you talk to.
Well, Well,
Anyway.
not to bring up from 7 episodes ago, but those guys have they have that other brain talking to them in their helmet. That's why I really hope MotoGP never does that, because
Oh, they're like in contact with the pit leader,
yeah, if
crew
you
chief guy.
yeah, when you're watching those races, there's always some guy in there like push, 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 turn, push, 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 turn. I'm like, shut up.
Yeah, that's funny because I saw a thread. I forget where. I think it was on East Coast Track Riders on Facebook or something. Someone asked about using the Bluetooth headset on a track day, and there were a bunch of comments about, "Oh, I use it all the time. Music's nice," or "No way, no track group's ever gonna let you do that." Just back and forth, complete opposite. And I was just kind of laughing to myself because I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I might have thought about it before, but after talking to Ken Hill and him saying like, nope, just not worth it. Doesn't make any sense for a bike. For a car, sure. For a bike, absolutely not." I was like, "Yeah, you know what? That makes sense. What you're saying makes sense." So
This is really gonna date myself, but
here we go.
do you remember the old movie Iron Eagle?
No, no, I don't.
You need to
I'm
go
not a
back
movie
and
guy
watch
though.
that.
All
You should
right.
go back and watch that. That was a young kid that was aspiring to fly F-16s,
Mm-hmm.
and the only way it was good is if he took his Walkman, which was strapped to his leg, by the way, and he would sneak his little metal things with the foam ear muffs,
Mm-hmm.
and he would play some, crappy early '80s rock
Yeah.
on there,
Wow.
and then,
Easy with the crappy.
well,
It's good
no,
music.
I love '80s rock.
Well, you talking quality wise?
Yes, I'm talking quality. It
All
was
right, all right, all right.
That's the only way he could, fly the jet. That's the only way he could fly the plane, is if he was listening to music. And sometimes I think, man, if I had, like a theme song going in my helmet, maybe that would do something for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that most track days, even if you have like a helmet with a built-in, they don't like that. If they catch tracks that check your helmets, they're not going to let you go out there with like a Cena on it,
Yeah.
because they
Yeah, I
don't want
mean,
to.
my first track day I actually did with the helmet I have that does have the Bluetooth in it. I don't remember them saying anything, but I wasn't using it either. So
Did they check your helmet though?
no more than the just lift your chin up as you're riding past to make sure it's strapped.
Yeah, some track days at Harrison Eurosports, when I was talking to them, I know a lot of track days sticker your helmet.
Hmm.
They
Okay.
put a sticker on your helmet saying that your gear has been checked. That's the significance of the sticker, is that your gear has been also checked.
Interesting.
Most of the tracks we've been to do not tech that, but Rolling Road definitely made you haul your suit down there, which is such a pain.
Yeah, I feel like that one was interesting because we hauled it all down there, and then
Nobody looked at it
yeah,
anyway.
I felt like they didn't even look at it. So it's just like, why?
They were
Why
just
did we
trying to make
bother?
it hard to push a bike in humidity.
Yeah. Well, they're probably just trying to make sure people don't ride them down because that track did have the like early morning no sound whatever limit. So
Yeah, that's true. I
to
learned something
bring,
neat. Go ahead.
I just wanted to bring that F1 back. So essentially, we're saying Marc Marquez is wrong until they put wings on the brake levers of the
I
bikes.
think so.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Yeah, they've got a long ways to go to get to F1 level.
Oh, you just said like it, the leading edge and the A arms, and I was like, what? Oh yeah, the brake guard, the brake lever guard. You could put a little wing on that, and because I mean, the GP bikes are insane. Like Honda was testing a new. I might have said this a couple weeks ago or whatever, but testing some new Aero on their swing arm on
Hmm.
the side of it to keep the side of it down when you're going through a turn, and like it's nuts, right? So, but I guess until they put wings on the end of the windshield and the brake lever and the toes of the boots. Oh my gosh! Imagine if Alpenstars put wings on the end of their boots. You'd
Why
scrape them on
haven't
the
they?
ground, but
I bet they have. I bet if you look, you can find some. We definitely
probably.
got, I mean, we definitely have helmets that we can put, some helmets are advertised as 3 separate wind diffuser spoilers on the back of them that you can switch to.
So
That's for buffeting, though, in theory, not
yeah,
for,
and I have ridden on a few different helmets, and the ones that have something for the wind to go through to keep the helmet down is actually quite nice because otherwise you stick your head up in the wind. On a sport bike, it's not too bad because you have that windshield that kind of creates that bubble. But
you haven't
when
rode, you haven't rode JKMoto's Ducati yet.
well,
The
hopefully
handle, the
next
handlebars are taller than the windshield.
Well, I thought we were gonna get a double bubble on there before I ever wrote it, but I guess maybe not. We'll see.
I ain't seen it in the mail yet.
But my XL600 that I had in high school, I had a helmet with with the spoiler, and there was a very distinct point where I'd look down and you could tell it was good to go, and then you lift it up, it's still good to go. But if you turn it, all of a sudden it just starts getting your whole head gets whipped back.
Right.
You turned it just enough to either side, so that one makes sense. But wings on the boots, now that's a new idea. Like I said, they'd scrape on the ground, but maybe you just bring them up and on the on the outside of the leg. Why are they putting them on the swing arm? Why don't they just put them on the leg?
See, you started looking like Batman.
Anyway, you said you learned something new.
You lost me. What did I learn new? You lost me now.
I don't know. We were talking too much about
I
Aero.
learned something new about the carbon fiber wheels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're done there. But after finishing the Red Bull Museum, Hangar 7, I got to go to this one. Here it is again. Bigger letters for you.
That's different. Yeah, it's another sticker.
It's a free sticker.
Free sticker. Wow.
Free sticker. And that's good because the stuff I bought there was overpriced. So
imagine that.
KTM Motor Hall. Again, I'm going to keep bringing it up because I was there with a lot of people that have no motorsports knowledge, skill, care, anything. To drive into that motor hall facility, somebody said, "Why are we touring KTM? They hardly sell any in the United States." And I said, "How old are you and where have you been?" I'm pretty sure, and I didn't look these numbers up. I should have looked these numbers up. I meant to, but I'm pretty sure KTM's outselling at least a couple of the Japanese brands at this point.
Are we counting Husqvarna?
Yeah, if you count KTM, okay, Husqvarna, and Gas.
Yeah. Well, if you're counting all three, definitely. I'd say KTM alone, they're definitely keeping up.
In my real world job, I tour a lot of factories and see a lot of that stuff. I don't get impressed too easy.
Right.
We were driving for miles and passing KTM spare parts department, KTM, just multiple buildings that have literally acreage under these buildings. Giant facilities. Unfortunately, we didn't get to tour any of those on this particular trip, but the Motor Hall is their official museum, if you will.
Okay.
Very interesting. I'm sure we'll have some videos coming out on the YouTube channel showing some of the stuff I've seen there. But they have displays, for example, with every major engine advancement they've made since their beginning. They have a wall that's similar to something I've seen at the Harley Davidson Museum, but they have basically a timeline with real bikes.
Okay.
And it's built on like an arch or like an oval track, if you will, with a banking, and you can just walk around this circle and see their first bike. You know, they started with a lot of scooters. Think Vespa.
Okay.
KTM made a lot of Vespa type scooters, bought a lot of companies along the way to get as big as they are.
Interesting.
And just got rid of the brand names
until
recent history where they purchased Gas, purchased Husqvarna. Pretty sure they just bought 10% of MV Agusta.
Interesting. Okay. Didn't know that.
They're letting some of those lesser known brands like that don't have a presence in the U.S., I should say. The reason is they think they can drop them on the U.S. market by utilizing the KTM dealership network.
That's pretty fair.
That'll be interesting to watch in the coming years, but very, very cool. I didn't talk to you a lot this last week because I was in the middle of it, but I did find time to send you myself on Miguel Oliveira's the first bike that won a MotoGP race for KTM. Pretty neat. They have a MotoGP simulator. Okay. There. You sit on a full-size motorcycle, would you call it? I mean, there's no wheels on it, right? But
okay.
It's a full-size arcade game, you know.
Is it like the arcade games that you
go? It's like the arcade game, but you got a legit bike.
Okay. I've always wanted to, put my race suit on and then go to the arcade and
just roll in.
Yeah. See what people say. But anyway.
Safety first.
Maybe one of these days.
Yeah, let's do it together. That'd be fun. You find one of them things, I'll roll in there with you. That'd be funny.
All right, let's do it.
Anyway, you had that. They had like a movie showing the history, but it was very cool. KTM's a big operation, and it's funny that so many of the American colleagues I had with me don't realize they're everywhere. And
yeah.
As we know, listening to this podcast, the people listening to this probably know, but KTM's making a ploy to become the biggest, baddest thing in MotoGP.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like their last frontier. They've won like 17, don't quote me on that, but like 17 Dakar races. So they rule the off-road motorcycle world
Right.
in that aspect. They absolutely have the big ADV bikes. They're definitely have chomped into anything BMW is doing with their GS line, but they've got the full range, all the way up, all the way down.
Well, that's the only thing I would counter with is that you don't see the RC8. I'd say is their only full size sport bike, actual, right? You got their
Actually.
RC390. You have the Dukes, the naked sport bikes, but you don't see a full size faired sport bike on the road from KTM. And I think you and I both would love to, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I'm thinking of buying an RC8.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because you're not wrong at all. I mean, obviously they're going all out in MotoGP. They kind of have been for a bit, but it's actually starting to show that their money's doing
But what do we
something.
always say? I'm going to tie this back in, but what do we always say about, come on, BMW, get up there in MotoGP, right?
Yeah,
But there's been statements from the company, and I still hope they get there. Don't get me wrong, but they've made statements that they get more advertising by hanging pictures on the or just the border of the track says BMW all the way around it.
yeah. They
The
get the safety car.
the safety cars, the ambulance driving around, everything's marked up BMW, and they don't even race a bike.
Yeah, well, they do. Maybe that's just America, but I thought that was most races. They'll do the like pre. I don't want to say most, but they'll have someone out there on one of their superbike world superbike riders go do a lap
Yeah,
of the
like a
track on there.
parade lap.
Yep.
So they're getting a lot of advertisement that way. And I mean, they're selling a lot of S1000s,
Mm-hmm.
which that goes to a whole nother argument, though. So if you're KTM, the R1, they're saying it's gone in a couple years.
Yeah.
The R1 is supposed to die.
Which I don't believe that. There are six, yeah, obviously, because it is dead. But I don't.
The world's changing, my friend. And I don't want them to kill it either. But the R1 is going to potentially die. If the R1's gone, they're not selling.
Yeah, the super bikes, no one wants them.
Yeah, they're
No one
not
wants the
selling.
leader
Everybody's too
bikes.
interested in the naked this and the crazy that. And
This is great around town, but you can still carve out the canyon and you can still do a track day.
yeah,
All in one. Yep.
so the world's changing. So if you look at KTM, I mean, I've seen all over Europe. KTM's a pretty prevalent bike in Europe, of
Mm-hmm.
course. I mean, you see street bikes. So they're a prevalent dirt bike in the United States, but you don't see a lot of KTM street bikes.
Right.
Man, we spent a night or two in Switzerland,
Mm-hmm.
and I, just walking around the town at night, just watching everybody that drives by. Those 390 Dukes were everywhere. It's like everybody's driving a 390 Duke, going to work in the morning. You'd sit out there and watch them, and I mean, and in Europe they have different laws on what you can. So the whole licensing system's different, which
Okay.
we don't need to get into all that. But it's really hard to qualify to drive something that big anyway.
Right.
It's a lot of small bikes running around the villages, they call them. I
Yeah.
call them small towns, but European flair.
Yeah.
Villages.
Well, yeah. Interesting.
So that was the KTM Motor Hall. It was definitely worth, again, I wouldn't make a special trip to Austria to see it, but
But if you're
it
in the
was,
area,
if you're in the area, absolutely put it on your stop. When we were leaving, there was a tour bus pulled up with nothing but blue hairs in it. I mean, they were people in there, retired people
mm-hmm.
that needed bust around, and they were outside taking pictures. There had to be 40 of them getting ready to go in there, and I just kind of chuckled because most of them were carrying a cane, and their 390 Duke days are over.
Right.
But they looked excited to go in there, and I got a little chuckle out of that. It warmed my heart a little.
Yeah. Well, and motorsport in general, I feel like it's bigger over in Europe, just kind of in general.
Well, I think so. There's a lot of people ask the question. I hear the question all the time on other podcasts, things like that. Why is our sport bikes dying? I have my own take on that. I have my own opinion, and it's not the only reason. But if you look at the United States, we can jump on a dirt bike and go up in the mountains almost anywhere in the United States, aside from New York City. You can jump on a dirt bike and find somewhere to go ride, whether it's a track, open range, open road.
Yeah.
Over there, let's talk about a fishing license. This is America. This is my America segment right here.
Last week we got bagged by our editor for "Are we even a motorcycle podcast?" Here we are talking about fishing.
Well, uh, there's these beautiful lakes, beautiful mountains, beautiful everything you see over there. I mean, it's beautiful country.
Right.
And I asked somebody, this was years ago, but I asked one of the German guys, like, man, you ever go fishing down there? He's like, no, it's too hard to get a license.
Hmm.
And
You
I knew
can't
he was
just
into fishing.
go to Walmart and buy it.
No, it's not just that. So in the United States, the people own the river.
Okay. Yeah.
So sure, there's rules, laws, regulations. You can't hike here. Don't dump your trash there. Blah blah blah.
Right.
But in Europe, the government owns the river, and so you have to get the right to go fish on the government's river.
Okay.
So that small difference, that's just a small difference, right?
Right.
That small difference makes everything more complicated. So when you go to get a fishing license, you have to be approved by the government to fish on their river. So the fishing license in general is much harder to get.
Okay.
And then the permission for the access to the spot. And then just the rules. I mean, we have rules here, obviously, catch and release or how many fish you can catch and all that kind of stuff. Their laws are you can't keep a fish here, you can't catch a fish there.
Hmm.
It's just more complicated. Just like the motorcycles. Anyway. The reason I was saying that is that's the same when you go to try riding off road. If it's not a company that has bought this property and created a riding zone for you, there are
Right.
no BLM land. There is no BLM land. There's no land owned by the people that has rules and regulations, but it's for the people to enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
There is none of that. The government owns the land.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think, I mean, supercross, or not supercross, but just dirt bikes in general are also popular over there, but
Right.
not as much as here. So I
Yeah, I
think,
would I would love to see a study because I think it's just my generation. I think
well,
the adrenaline, like big boy adrenaline junkies have or are dying off with your generation. And I'll say generation isn't minute, but rather pretty large here because I understand it. I don't know the generations that well, but the people that are teenagers now or in their 20s now are content playing video games, and that gives them enough of a rush that they don't need anything else.
yeah. Well,
And
to show my age one more time, I told you about that. I told you about that friend of mine that was. He said no. I've never been on the track, but I'm a racer,
yep,
and I
e-racing
said,
or i-racing or whatever.
yeah, he was iRacing. He's never been out on a track or anything, but he considers himself a racer. He introduces himself as a racer. And all he does, he not to take anything away from the sport. I know it's a sport now, video games,
Yeah,
has been for a long time, but it's just different. Like I tried explaining to him, well, you can't die.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so I've also got a buddy that i-races a little bit, and talking with him because I wasn't a believer in it at all. After talking with him, I get it a little bit because they go down and your good iRacing will have like to the, don't quote me here, but to the 10 millimeter or to the 5 millimeter like track surface, right? So they go out and they scan a track and they have the bumps, they have the gravel, they have all of that, and your tire wear is actually taken into effect. So it's not just playing Forza or whatever video game you
Right.
might be playing. It's a little more than that, but at the same time,
You
it's
can't
not.
die.
Yeah, you can't die. You're not actually there. If you roll the car, you're still sitting. I'm sitting in my chair right here. I haven't rolled anything. Which there's a big part of me that's like, man, I wish I enjoyed that because I'd save a lot of money, but it's just not the same. But I would argue that that is what's killing the superbike, what's killing sport bikes, and what's gonna kill motorsport in general.
Well,
Honestly.
let me throw one more thing in there. So my near death experience last the end of last year.
Okay. Yep.
So
Remember
I
now.
had to rebuild the back end of the bike,
All right.
and I put the poor man's paint job on the back half.
Mm-hmm.
Took her out to the track, and when it come back, I thought I'd run through some mud on the underside of the tail.
Was it just peeling off?
Well, no, I honestly thought I'd like went through some gray mud or something, right? Because it
Right.
was just spotted, the whole undertail spotted all the way from tip to tire, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I walked up there to try wiping it off, and it was rock chips.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
And you get those, right? Whatever. But I showed my wife. I was like, "Look at this," and she goes, "Man, what happened?" I said, "It's the gravel and stuff. The rocks. It's just rock chips." And she says, "Why? Where were you driving it that it would have had that many rocks flipping up?" And I said, "On the track." And she goes, "Well, there shouldn't be any rocks or anything out there." And I said, "Tell that to my helmet."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many times you get into them crowds or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah.
some. I've been hit in the face more than once. You can't recreate that on a video game.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
occasional bug that splatters. Maybe they should do that to the video game. Like your vision should go down as the race progresses because you get more and more
Well,
bugs on your helmet. I haven't
you
seen a
would just
video
press
game
a
doing
button
that
to
yet.
do that whole. You see them rip off the screen or whatever. I always laugh because you get a helmet and it's a showy helmet, but then they have Oakley all over the visor. And then they're just ripping off those screens. I'm like, does Oakley supply all of those? Or is that some random off company that they just
I
pay
think there's
for
a
it? They
lot
don't
of
even
companies
care.
that make those because Jack Miller says Caterpillar
Okay.
and Josh Heron says OnlyFans.
Yeah. Yeah. Him and his only dude. That has been all over his Instagram. Oh man.
I heard
Uh
some people today actually on something I was listening to making fun of the cameras that he must have in his house to capture those videos, implying that he was maybe posting videos on.
mm, yeah. All right. Well, hey, speaking of Josh Heron, do we want to talk about Moto
Well,
America at all?
I want to talk about Moto America, but now that the intro to the intro to the intro is done,
Uh-huh.
we first have to talk about the most important thing to happen in motorcycle racing while I was gone.
I'm missing it.
I sent it to you.
Just barely.
No, no, not
Second
just
ago.
barely. Don't
I might
reach
not
for the
have.
gun. Don't reach for the gun. So Top Rack is gonna drive a BMW in World Superbike.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I remember you. Yep. I remember now.
That is a cascading. That is I don't know what you call it. That is big news.
But can the BMW keep up
Yes, let me tell you.
with a Yamaha?
Absolutely.
Moto America would tell you otherwise.
Let's save that.
Okay.
I got excuses for that too.
Okay. All right. I'm
So,
excited.
so BMW is the fastest bike, potentially second fastest at worst on the World Superbike stage.
Okay.
Nobody in a straight line.
Yeah. Can we pause for 1 second?
No more
Because I
pause.
want to
Yeah.
ask you a question that I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Is my BMW fast? You bet.
All right. Not as fast as the Husky, though,
Not quite as fast as a Husky,
in
but
all
we're
her
working
glory.
on it. We're working on it.
Um, no. So your first sport bike was a Ducati, and then you
Yeah.
went out and bought an S1000. That was a
Yeah.
track bike. And then after riding the track bike, you bought a 2022 S1000. And prior to all of that, I wouldn't have said to anyone that you were a BMW guy. And so, you give me crap for being a Suzuki guy and talking up Suzuki because I just love Suzuki. But Are you actually a BMW guy, or where did that, what stemmed that decision, and why have you stuck behind it?
So it's for dumb reasons.
That's fine. I like
It's
dumb
for
reasons. Those
it's
are my
for dumb
favorite.
reasons, but so I had a BMW car at the time, as you know,
Yep. Do remember that.
and I love the car.
Okay.
That was the first BMW car I'd ever owned, and at the time that I was making that decision, that probably opened my eyes a little bit to pay attention to BMW because I was so in love with the car. That's one. I mean, there was a lot of factors. That was one. The
Okay.
next factor was I went into it knowing I was getting 1,000 because that's just because I'm dumb. So it's just what I'm doing. I'm buying 1,000,
Right.
and so if you look at the thousands, personally, I from the off-road world, I am anti Yamaha.
Okay.
Just
Yep. I knew
just
that.
just personal preference. So
I
that
knew
one was
that.
checked off.
Hmm.
So we took that one off of the mix. I don't. When did the latest So I've always been a Honda guy in the off-road world.
Yep.
So what was the newest Fireblade? What year did that come out?
2021.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite out yet, or I might have just went and bought that bike.
I gotta research it because I don't remember.
Okay. So it would have been like me to just go buy a Honda because that's what I do. But I didn't really like the used ones on the market. I didn't like the fact that it didn't seem like there'd been many updates on those. Um,
Right.
I ended up with a used BMW for the record, so it's not that's not fair to say that the Honda wasn't or was outdated compared to the BMW I ended up with.
Right.
But as much as people don't like it, and as much as that doesn't even matter now because I'm race fairinged out and everything else, I really fell in love with the funny headlights.
Oh man, what are the
Well, I
non?
have a bunch of names that aren't politically correct, so but
Okay.
but but the for those that don't know, first gen and second gen
And
BMWs had a
third,
and third.
technically.
They have their headlights are not
Yeah,
symmetrical,
asymmetrical. Yeah,
asymmetrical.
asymmetrical.
Yeah, they're kind of funny looking. I thought that was cool. I started looking at the bike more and more, and I you always said it.
Oh
So
yeah, I was telling you, go get an S1000. Go get an S1000.
well, yeah. So maybe I'm impressionable too, not just you, like stated last week. But uh, I think some of the things that resonated is that bike was one of the first to throw like all sorts of technology
Hmm.
at it. They were one of the first to be like, let's take this to another level.
Yeah. Yep.
Everybody else, it took them some time to catch up. So it's kind of crazy when you look at it, how old of a BMW you can buy and still have all these features that took many more years for the other bikes to catch up on.
Yeah. Well, on the first year, 2009 was so revolutionary that it doesn't feel old.
Right.
I mean, like you're saying, it feels so new. But you think about it, that's 1 year newer than. That's the same year as that Gixxer you have.
So I compared it once already, but compared to an 848 Ducati
Hmm.
that is 2 years newer, it's a spaceship.
Yeah,
So
it's nuts. And that's that's why everyone loved it.
so that was part of it. And then I set a goal is the wrong word, but I said I want to experience buying a brand new super bike. Like
Hmm.
I want to buy a brand new one that nobody's ever touched. It hasn't been modded. It's mine and I can do whatever I want to it. And some of the reasons there were why not drive the same bike on the track that you're driving on the street to see what carries over?
Right.
Because I own every spectrum of bike, and I like to have a bike for every occasion.
Hmm.
But in that particular case, I loved it. I love the one I had, so I went and got another one to see where they were at now. That doesn't mean I won't, buy something different.
Yeah.
You know that, but and have
Yeah.
proven that already.
Oh
But
yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I wouldn't go. I just have to laugh sometimes because you talk up. It feels like you're defending BMW a lot, and I'm like, I don't think of you as a BMW guy. And I'm like, well, I guess he does own two S1000s, which is the only other bike that compares to that is you have 2 Harley Davidsons, so makes sense. But
But that's honestly in my life probably the first time I've had two bikes for, I guess they're different reasons, but still for similar reasons.
yeah, I mean
I
they're
mean,
like the same bike. Yeah, one's 10 years, 12 years newer, but same exact bike, just
yeah,
updated. So
yeah. I only say that because you brought up the Harleys, but you have to have your off road bike, your on road bike, your two up bike, your you know
single cruising around town, look cool bike. Yeah,
your
yeah.
your 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 bike show bike. You gotta have
You
you gotta
have
have
to
all the
have
bikes.
12 bikes. That's what we're saying. If you were wondering, buy the next bike. Just go buy it.
Just go buy it. Spread yourself so thin you can't do anything to any of
This is your sign. Go buy that bike.
them. So back to Top Rack.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is interesting. This is an interesting move. Not just leave BMW out of it.
Okay.
There's things coming out in the news. For those that don't know, Top Rack is arguably the greatest motorcycle rider in World Superbike.
Greatest breaker. Yeah.
Greatest breaker maybe in any
Yeah.
motorcycle
Maybe.
genre.
We have, yeah. I mean, we were talking about that. I don't know if it was on or off show, but the difference in brakes between World Superbike and MotoGP. And
Yeah, I got a good look at them, by the way.
yeah,
Those
the
ceramic, those
carbon
ceramic
ceramic,
brakes.
whatever nutso brakes.
Yeah, they don't even look like a brake. They look like a plastic. Well, they look like a ceramic brake, but they're as big as the wheel. They're as
Hmm.
big as the wheel.
Are they like thick too? Because I know
They're
like,
super thick,
okay.
super thick. But they look pretty crazy. I spent a lot of time actually looking at components on the bike because I was like, here's your opportunity to really like dissect,
Yeah.
a high end bike. They don't normally let you, see them
Right. Yep. Yep.
while they're racing, but that one I spent a lot of time with it. But Top Rack going to BMW is huge. And it's huge because I hope this doesn't happen. There's questions out there like what's Yamaha, what's Honda going to do in the future? Sport bike sales are going down.
Yeah.
KTM's able to just throw some race bikes out there. They don't even have to sell one in the real world. They feel like it's helping the rest of their business.
Right.
But Yamaha and Honda, I don't know. With Suzuki leaving, I don't know. If they can't get their stuff together, they're going to get sick of losing, I think, pretty soon here. The most interesting thing to come out from this is I'm sure you haven't heard this yet, so this is your initial reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So Top Rack recently got the opportunity to drive a MotoGP bike, a Yamaha.
Okay.
Morbidelli is on the outs,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Yamaha's going to be looking for that next rider.
Yep.
So Top Rack's already in the Yamaha family. So they put him on a MotoGP bike, and the media reported that he did fine, but he didn't wow anybody. That's what you've heard. Like he rode the bike, he was off the pace a little bit, but his first time riding it, so
Yeah.
there's no guarantee he was going to be a superstar.
Right.
Well, since this move, Top Rack has came out and said he's got some serious bones to pick with Yamaha.
Hmm.
Some of the same quarrels as Fabio, saying Yamaha's unwilling to fix this bike for him to make this bike better, to make a competitive bike so that he can go win World Superbike again, first off. But second
Okay.
off, he said he was disrespected when he drove that MotoGP bike. He said that was like something they had promised him.
Mm-hmm.
And when he arrived, he made it sound like they were unwilling to move the handlebars where he wanted, or move his foot pegs where he wanted, or
Hmm.
give him any real opportunity to show what he could do on the bike.
Right.
It may be an excuse by him for why he didn't do well, but Top Rack doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with him, but I also do know that when you get into racing at that level, all of those things. I mean, you and I, right, at our level, we hop on a bike, we go ride it. I'm not gonna be able to come back and be like, I think I could ride it better if my clip-ons were 5 degrees more offset.
Right.
But when you get to that level, those little things, they make the difference because you go out and you test it at every difference. And so if you've been riding World Superbike as long as he has and is at the level that he has been, there's no reason he couldn't come back and tell, yeah, hey, I need this up or down or whatever small adjustment made that'll make me feel better, that'll make me be able to produce better.
Well, it's just the fact that I mean, we've talked about it before, the different levels of riders and how much different they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to be an armchair quarterback or whatever, but
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah.
yeah, Toprak went out there, he was like a second off of Fabio's time, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
That's still faster than everybody in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
So,
what, not to keep bringing up Moto America and not talk about it, but I was looking at the spread. The difference between Moto America and MotoGP is nuts in the spread. Because in the spread, in look at qualifying, right? The top 10 finishes within 5/10 of each other every week. They qualify
yeah,
within, like, the top 2 to 3 guys sometimes are within the hundredths, less than
absolutely.
five, and it's nuts how, like, close they actually are. Like, if someone gets a 4-second lead in MotoGP, you don't even see them. They're gone.
Right.
They're out. They're gonna win the race. It's over. You can't catch up. You can't get that back. And then you finish Moto America here with your second place is 3 seconds behind. Right? Like, it's insane.
So,
Anyway.
with Toprak, there's only one of two things that could have happened in my mind.
Okay.
BMW backed up a truckload of money,
Okay. Yeah.
and he's given up on his career and said, I'm just going to take the money. I don't believe that, because Toprak wants to win a bunch of championships. I think he should be able to. I think he feels like he can.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm looking at that field, there's not a ride for him at Ducati. Ducati's got like 7 Italian riders over there lined up.
Yep.
Toprak is Turkish, for the record.
Yeah. Then they definitely don't want him then.
So if I look at the field and I'm confident in my ability to ride, to brake, to turn, BMW has the speed. They're the only ones really with the speed to match Ducati in
Okay.
World Superbike. If he looks at it and feels
The
like he
track.
can, they got great brakes too. Nobody's arguing their braking ability.
Right.
It's some things with the turning.
Mm-hmm.
So if he thinks that he can jump on a BMW, have the same speed as the Ducati, he can do his famous braking. All he's got to do is figure out how to turn it. That might be his best chance for a championship if Yamaha's not going to.
Yeah. Well, and one would argue if he can have the speed and then brake like he normally does, he might be able to get away with it anyway, even without the turning being where he wants it to be, or where
Right.
Yamaha had it, I guess.
So what that does, what'll be interesting to watch now is, so BMW is fielding a 4-bike team in World
Okay.
Superbike.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, Garrett Gerloff is on the satellite team, if you will, which is Lenovo. Yep.
Okay.
Think about that for a minute.
Yeah. Weird.
What Easton's thinking about right now is, doesn't Lenovo sponsor Ducatis in MotoGP?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anyway.
Which always, some of the MotoGP sponsorships crack me up.
Yeah,
Lenovo they make
like those
laptops.
teddy bear clothes your boy wears. What's his sponsor?
Who?
Grin and Barrett, Teddy Grahams or something he's got on his suit all the time.
I don't freaking know.
Grin and Barrett.
Yeah.
Some clothing company in Europe we don't know about.
I don't know.
It's Grin and something.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can tell you don't know what we're talking about. So
Unless you're thinking of like Poland Bear.
yeah, that one.
Yeah.
The teddy bear.
Yeah.
Poland Bear, what's that? A clothing company?
I have no idea. I've never looked into it. I don't know.
Okay, so
Don't
I'd
care.
ask the editor right now to put like some words across the bottom.
Okay. Yeah.
Teddy bear referred to as Poland bear or grip or
Research it.
So I hope all this makes the show. But
Oh, it will.
So he's gonna go over there, but there's 4 people over there. Our boy Garrett Gerloff,
Mm-hmm.
who I think he's safe because
I hope so.
I think he is. Loris Baz has less of a chance of making it than Garrett Gerloff right now, I believe. Not because of it, so he's been injured,
Mm-hmm.
but there's some other factors in there that we don't need to get into. But Garrett Gerloff, I think, is solid for next year. I hope so as well. But up in the top bikes, you got Vandermark, who I was hoping didn't retire after his injury. But it sounds like Vandermark was ready to sign a deal for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So Redding and Toprak do not like each other.
Okay.
They do not like each other. And Redding was the big bad Ducati rider at one point, and BMW backed the dump truck up to get him. thinking that was going to help him out. So this isn't the first time they've paid big money to get a top rider.
Right.
But Redding has twice now, I believe, definitely once, but twice now, I believe, he's been on the track and decided he can't make up any more positions and pulled in mid-race. Just went and told him
What?
there's no reason to put myself at risk. Give me a better bike. Forget that guy, dude.
Okay, that's I would fire if I was a team manager and I had a rider that came in and said your bike's not good enough. I can't do any better, so I pulled off. I'd fire him on the spot.
Absolutely.
On the spot. Your job is not to tell me that my bike is not good enough. It's to go ride the bike at its best and finish the freaking race. Because if nothing
Because
else,
a sponsor has paid to put whatever on the side of that bike.
mm-hmm,
Let's just say BMW even. It says BMW on the side of the bike. You're the factory team. They want that turning laps in the hopes that it makes the camera as much as possible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you can still make the camera in 17th, 18th place.
yep.
I mean, they'd probably rather you went and crashed the bike. So
Well, if you take last place, you get more cheers.
we found that out, huh?
Yeah, from the live crowd.
Oh,
They
what a
love the guy in
trooper.
last
What a
place. Yeah.
hero.
What bike is that? It's got great stamina, endurance.
So,
No, I would fire someone on the spot if they did that. The first time I'd be like, "What? No,
yeah,
never
let's
did that
talk
again."
about this, buddy. But
All right,
then,
yeah. And then if they do it again, it's like, okay, nope, you're obviously not a racer. No racer pulls in and says, "I can't do any better." That's not. You push the bike to its limit, and if you can't do any better, you push it past its limit. If you wreck out because you're like, I can't do any better, so I was pushing the bike past where it could ride, that's one thing.
right?
I'll accept that, and that's
So,
fine, but whew, I'm upset. Anyway,
so the money bet is Redding is he's gone.
okay.
Who knows where he'll land or if he does. So we'll have Top Rack on the top BMW. BMW's trying.
Yeah.
They're gonna get this right.
So I wonder if KTM's doing the opposite, because are they in World Superbike?
Nope.
Nope. So maybe they're doing the opposite of BMW, where they're like, hey, we're going to start at the top. And once we figure that out, then we'll build a bike for everything else.
Trickle
Whereas
back down.
BMW is like, well, we make a bike, let's see if it can race. And then maybe one day, maybe. I don't actually, honestly, honest opinion, I don't think BMW is ever going to go. I think they make a superbike purely because someone at the BMW factory wants a superbike. So they've convinced enough people that it's worth it. And they like racing. Anyway, I don't want to see.
I seen an interview with Gerloff, and
Okay.
I'll leave all the names out, but I'll quote it as close as I can. Garrett Gerloff's own words. He had an opportunity to write a stock
Mm-hmm.
S1000 or M1000 rather.
Okay.
So the same bike as he races in World Superbike.
Right.
He said he was surprised at how fast it was, but he said he wasn't contractually obligated to say that. He said it really is a fast bike. He said some of the struggles that they have is it's hard to argue. He said the electronics are so good.
Hmm.
He said on a BMW, they're just so good that it's hard to like explain. I know you like to pick on BMW and say they don't have a soul and all that. And he didn't just go with it. He didn't exactly use
Yeah.
those words, but what he said was, "It's so good." And I know that's cliche. That sounds funny to say. It's so good. And even he was saying it sounds weird to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have too much grip coming out of a corner. You
Yeah.
need the bike to slip a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And you need the bike to you need to feel it. You need to feel what's going on behind you.
Yeah.
And he said they can tune all that stuff out of there so good that it's kind of hard to come back to your programmer and be like, "Hey, I need you to mess this up a little bit. I need
Take it back to a bike, so I can
yeah,
feel it. So I can feel it riding. I mean, it's the same as you could argue. It's the same as Pecco with Ducati.
that's true.
That's
That's true. That's
it's
what he's
basically
saying.
what he said, right? He's like, you've made it too good to where I don't know what the difference between the edge and over the edge is. So yeah.
Yeah, Garrett was definitely alluding to that, but it's interesting. I mean, there's a lot of arguments out there. We've talked about it before, but They say the BMW needs completely revamped. Maybe the S1000 stays the same, but maybe they should make the M1000 an entirely different bike. A lot of people say it's in the swing arm.
Mm-hmm.
The way they do their swing arms for their street bikes will never work at that level. I'd like to see
Yeah.
them do good. Obviously, so you'll quit giving me crap is the biggest reason. More and more, they're putting riders that I like on the bikes.
Hey,
So
just always remember that I convinced you to buy an
no,
S1000 back in the day.
okay. Where do I
Yeah,
send the check?
taking full credit.
Where do I send the check?
Hey, when you win a race this year,
Yeah,
that's all me.
that that's good. Just started reading a Mind Gym. I just started reading the book Mind Gym. It's supposed to make me a better racer.
Mind gym, like
Yeah, and I'm
mental
on.
health exercises or
It's
mental focus exercises.
it's a positive thinking for athletes, basically.
Okay.
Envisioning where you want to be rather than
Ah, yes, yes.
instead of going out there and say I can't do this because of this and this,
Picture
going
the
out there
win.
and saying why not me?
Picture the win.
Picture the win. So I don't know, man. I'm only on chapter 1, but I bet if I make at least chapter 7 of the 14 chapter book, I could probably win.
No, you have to picture you finishing the book.
That's where it starts. Anyway, I like BMW riders. I'm a guy who roots for riders.
Yeah.
Of course, I root for bikes, but
No,
uh,
I
I
would
never took a
agree.
second look at KTM, honestly, in MotoGP until Jack went there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just bought a KTM jacket the other day. Like,
Here we are.
I'm go
Yeah.
Jack,
Yeah.
I, there's certain riders that I'm just going to follow them no matter where they go.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my own preference on bikes, but BMW, I'm really rooting for them because I'm a Garrett Gerloff fan. He happens to ride a BMW. I was rooting for him when he was on the Yamaha, but Cameron Bobier, he's on a BMW now. That's cool.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I like BMW. I like their bikes. I always like the S1000. I have my differences with the newer models, but I haven't actually spent enough time with one to fully have an opinion on that. And a lot of it comes from I watched so many bike reviews of that bike that I've got like everyone else's opinions, sitting in the head. So you
yep,
go out on a bike and you've got everyone else's opinion there, and you're just trying to compare and see if it's true or not. So you don't really open up your own path to what you actually think until you debunk, if you will, everyone else's opinions. And I don't think I've had enough time on one to fully get rid of that. I will say the time I spent on yours, there's no argument for how fast that bike is. But I would love to ride a
thank you,
Ducati.
Brenton.
Yeah, I would love to ride a Ducati. And realistically, an R1 and a CBR, because I've ridden yours, I've ridden my Aprilia. They both have this feeling of you're going so fast and you don't know it. It doesn't wow you. I would say the Aprilia for me a little more because it's a V4, so it's got that torque a little bit lower, I think. So it kind of gives you that pushback kind of the whole time. But to go back to what Garrett might have been saying with all of the new bikes, I think you could put them all in that category if the electronics are so good that you don't feel it. The soulless that you mentioned earlier, I think it's everywhere. I don't think it's just BMW. I think it's everywhere. So anyway, just my
I
two
agree with
cents
that.
on that.
BMW is coming.
Yeah, with top rack. That's 2024, right?
Yep.
Be next year. So it'll be a season to look out for.
Let's move to Moto America,
All right.
but I want to start this.
Let's move past Moto America. That's it.
What?
I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
So our boy Anthony got to race Moto America again.
Mm-hmm.
But before we talk about that, he also came out to Utah this week,
Sure did.
and I haven't got a chance to catch up with him yet. He was hitting me up saying if I was going to be out there, but I was at the KTM Motor Hall.
Right.
Did you see his post on Instagram
Probably. You'd have to remind me of which one.
with all the medals? It's him and two of his friends or whatever. One of
Yeah.
them One of them's decked out. I don't know the gentleman in the picture with him, but come on, man, save some for the rest of us. How am I going to go out there? You're just going to drive up to Utah and take home all the medals.
You know, there's a reason he's riding for Altus in their Moto America team.
So I signed up for that race, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today, I officially signed in for race 2.
Okay.
So I'm picking the classes I'm going to race in and everything, and I kept going back and comparing it to the ones Anthony was in, and there's a couple of them that cross over.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be sharing the track in a couple of them.
All right.
And that's why I started reading the book. Anthony, I'm coming for you. I got to finish this book.
The mental focus is there.
Think about.
He's going to get to chapter 7, positively dream and think that he's at chapter 14 at the end of the book, and then envision himself in the win. We'll be good to go.
Watch out.
Just remember, I told him to buy the S1000.
So he got the opportunity to race the second race in Moto America.
Yeah, second weekend.
Third
and fourth race. Yeah.
Third and fourth race.
Yep.
Did you see how he did?
I believe it was 20th in the first one and 16th in the second.
Caveat for those that don't know, I think that race filled 30 plus bikes.
I can pull
that up because I just want to point out that
the results.
20th is, I'm sure, not the results he wanted, but in a MotoGP race, that's
the stock 1000.
Yep.
At Alabama, race 1, stock 1000 results 30 with 3 DNFs. Yep. So 33.
I'm just throwing that out because he's 20th. I'm calling it mid pack.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, he did take 16th.
16th, race 2.
Mm-hmm. Race 2. So, yeah, and I talked to him. Obviously, anything other than a win, every racer is going to be like not the outcome we were looking for, which I think is to be expected. But you also got to remember he's a privateer most of the time and doesn't have a ton of experience on a Suzuki, I believe. With this one also, first time at this track. So, that's asking quite a bit of a guy that hasn't done a Moto America season or 2 or 5 or 10 or however many. Really not bad, honestly. Not bad at all. So we're definitely proud of him over here, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Hoping
any word on is that it for him racing for those boys?
I haven't heard either way so far. Brandon Posh, yeah, I haven't heard anything. I know their next race, I was actually just looking at the calendar because I don't keep up with Moto America quite as I should, but their next race is this weekend. So, or this next weekend in a week, June 2nd at Road America, which is pretty quick. So I haven't asked Lugnut, and I haven't seen any news on that yet, but I would venture to guess, purely a guess here, that if Brandon Posh is still out, that he would be called back again. But I have no confirmation on that. So, gotcha. Or on the status of BP right now. So,
just getting these other classes out of the way. Did you see Kayla Yakov got on the podium?
I did not see that. Now, I watched both of the Superbike races, but that's all I got on YouTube because I don't have the app. So,
it was good to see Kayla Yakov finish second. That was cool. I always keep an eye on her. I enjoy watching her come through the ranks. It'll be interesting to see where her career goes, but she's been injured, so she missed the first round. She missed Daytona and then the first round for Twin Cups.
Okay.
But so she should be rusty and playing catch up, but she stuck it right on the podium. So that was cool.
Good news.
She's the real deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're both I think we like her attitude because it's her attitude and it doesn't play to that at all. Like you would not suspect, but what one could easily throw in there, she doesn't play towards that at all. She's a racer as even as everyone else in her head and everyone else's. So
yeah, she stated she doesn't want separate classes. She wants to beat the boys.
Yeah, which is nice to see. So
yep, absolutely, it's cool. It'll be interesting to see where her career goes. Rooting for her.
Yep. I don't have any actual info, but I do follow Max Toth on Instagram. Been seeing oh man, I shouldn't say
Why are you
anything.
bringing up bad stuff? I don't think he's doing so hot.
Well, yeah, but I think he put a bike down. Injury maybe. I don't remember. Anyway, I just like to keep my eye on Americans that are.
That's our great hope right there.
Yeah,
So
we'll get more for you later on Max
yeah,
Toth. Hopefully, good news.
he'll be okay. We started the year with arguably the greatest Moto America race of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Back-to-back races. I mean, race
Yep.
one, race two,
Amazing
great for
weekend.
their own reasons. And we're not giving up on that. Moto America has a lot of potential this year.
Yeah, it should.
I'm not giving up on that.
I'm gonna blame the track.
No,
That's what
that's
everyone else
definitely
was
part of it.
saying. So,
The bike did not lend itself to the BMW.
mm-hmm.
It's the track's fault, not the BMW's.
Yeah,
No,
always.
it's but it is true that the Atlanta was straight shoot,
Mm-hmm.
big long straights,
Yeah, power hungry. Yeah.
power hungry track. We went to kind of the other end of the spectrum at Barber.
Yep.
Came up with slightly different outcome.
I wouldn't say slightly.
Well, it was quite a different outcome, except for the front guy
Yeah.
didn't seem to mind.
No.
So
So, I don't know. I mean, your top three both days are
hit it.
the same Yamahas, except it looks like Cam Peterson wrecked out race 2. Yep. So,
Jake Gagne, number one, to be expected. That's
yeah,
3 out of 4 wins for him.
it's just
Um,
it's
people are
not
already starting to take a nap. Don't take a nap just yet.
for me. It's not the wins; it's the difference.
Okay, yeah. So
That's what was hard. I almost took a nap. That's what was hard watching on YouTube. I was like, man, come on, this is supposed to be the season. We were bragging to everyone, this is the season. I
it'll
can't
be
have
okay.
this.
It's gonna be okay.
I hope so. I
So
really
there
hope
were some
so.
factors in there. Do you have in front of you? Do you know where Cam qualified?
Don't
Where
have qualifying. I can pull it up if you want.
if you would, because Cam started back a little further and was unable to clear some traffic. If you overlay the laps, the time that was lost was
Be looking at Q2, I believe.
yep.
So Cameron Bobier was in 5th for qualifying.
Yep.
Q2. You had the three Yamahas, Gagne, Peterson, and Schultz, and then an
Yep.
Escalante on a Suzuki, and Bobier and Jacobson, and then Heron. The rest is history. So
what did you think of the race you didn't sleep through?
I thought they were good races. It was just kind of sad to see both of the two Yamaha boys take off again and be so far ahead because it was such a lead. The fights between Heron and the BMW, I hope that the rest of the tracks lend themselves more towards Ducati because obviously I'm a Heron fan. I like Cam Bobier. He's got to have something to offer this year just coming back from Europe. Because I know for me, riding at just track days, not racing, but after riding at Thunder Hill in Utah and then going back to the Ridge, it opened up my eyes a little bit. There
Right.
were things that I hadn't seen that way before. I was like, well, I did this. I just rode in Utah, and it opens you up different ideas, if you will.
Right.
So I'm hoping that helps Cam Bobier out. Having spent the time going all around the world and all these new tracks that everyone else hasn't been on should give him a better perspective. And I do think, I mean, he's never ridden a BMW anywhere.
Right.
So this is first year on a BMW. This BMW is brand new bike. So I don't want to make excuses for him, but if I was going to make them, those would be the two excuses I would make. And
Yeah,
he's
and
still up
I
there.
agree.
He's still fighting. So I still think it'll be a good year. Like you said, don't go hanging up the Moto America remote yet.
Yeah, and not after you talk to everybody into buying their app. So
Yeah.
I think next week will be telling.
Yeah.
If Jake Gagne comes out and wins the next two.
Well, and the only issue I had was that in Atlanta, they were like, oh, the arm pump, the arm pump, the arm pump for Gagne. That's all they were talking about all weekend. Like, oh, that arm pump must really be hurting him. And I was like, come on, just give the other guys the credit. And then this week, he just takes off and he's gone. And I was like, oof.
Because he's had the surgery now.
Yeah, I was like, was it the arm pump? And that did just, in fact, that was it. That was the only difference. So I do think, obviously, I like Schultz, so I don't want to talk bad, but he's usually not there in third. He's usually a bit further back. And so that,
Other years he has been,
yeah,
but less competitive years. As
right.
he seems to be like he's in that top three, but as the competition level steps up in Moto America, he drops
He's
back.
staying down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I used him as my reference this weekend to say that this is a Yamaha happy track, if you will, because he's a good rider for sure. But I would usually put him behind the other guys. I'd put the two Yamahas and then probably Cam and Heron and then him.
Agreed.
Right. If I was like predicting a lineup, that's what it would be. So when he was up there ahead of the other guys, I was like, okay, that is telling me that this is a track that Yamaha can do very well on very easily.
Well, those Yamaha boys, it was going to be hard to beat them regardless
Mm-hmm.
because it's the same bike year after year after year. I mean, they make fine adjustments. You've got Heron throwing the kitchen sink at his bike
Yeah.
because, I mean, Petrucci raced it, but those two guys aren't the same.
Well, and that, not to interrupt you, but there is such a difference when you watch Gagne out there, and he's good. Don't get me wrong, that guy's good. He can ride a bike, and they'll talk about it. But he'll go out and he'll bust out these 2 or 3 super quick laps, and then he'll just settle into this groove. So it feels like you see him in this groove more than anything. He looks like he's just, Sunday cruising.
Yep.
Whereas Heron's out there and his bike's rocking back and forth, sliding
That's
out from under him,
that's
bouncing as
Heron,
he's
man. That's
coming out
just
of the
how he
corner.
rides.
Well, and is that him or is that the bike?
I've seen him on a lot of other bikes, and he's just kind of a violent rider, maybe I'd call it.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's why we like him so much. Because I'd rather have that and unpredictable than a dude that, I mean, yeah, we've talked about it plenty of times with MotoGP, with everything, right? The robot out there on the bike that just makes it look so easy is not fun to watch.
Right.
It's cool. You don't take the credit away. Yeah, absolutely, he's a good rider, but it's just not as fun to watch. So, and that's just where it's at. Again, I don't mean that in any aspect of I don't think Gagne is a good rider or I don't think Pecco's a good rider or anything like that because those guys are obviously amazing. They're producing amazing results. But
Imagine how good Gagne could be if he ate meat.
is he a vegetarian? I didn't know that.
I believe so. So
That reminds me of some show the wife was watching today. Someone was like, "I'm like 80% vegan, so I'm vegan most of the time." I was like, "That's not vegan. It's not how that works. You're either vegan or
well,
you're not."
well,
Anyway,
I'm pretty sure he is. So imagine he'd probably already have won MotoGP like 3 times if he'd eat a steak every once in a while.
no, no. See, he didn't put too much weight on.
That might be true. He could cut
Yeah.
his hair though, and he'd be good.
That would probably make it the difference. He does have quite the hair. Yeah. Honestly, I don't. I'd be interesting to see Gagne head over to MotoGP, but I don't think he ever will.
The thing
If I were him, I wouldn't. Why
I
would you?
don't I I I said earlier that I root for riders.
Mm-hmm.
I don't root for him.
It's okay. It's because we can't pronounce his name. Actually,
Gagne.
yeah.
So he I still can't quite get over. So and I should. Sorry, Jake, because I know he's out there beating track records. Almost he set 2 track records this week. He set one on the
Mm-hmm.
first race, he set one on the second race. So obviously he's going faster than Cam has ever gone.
Right.
But watching him behind Cam when they were on the team together, Cameron did the same thing to him that he's doing to everybody else. Cam dominated him
Yeah.
most times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just, now Cam comes back and he's on a BMW, so it raises all these questions. I'm hoping the BMW is the bike, that they can give him what he needs, all those things. But in my mind, Cam will always be the better rider.
Yeah, because he proved it a few years ago.
Yeah, but that's on the flip side of that, I feel bad for Jake because people like me do think that.
Yeah.
And this is his chance to prove that he deserves and he is better and all those things to, the common man, me. But
at the end of the year, when Gagne wins and Cambobi is there in second or third, are you going to say, well, Jake's the better guy, or are you going to say that BMW doesn't have it?
yes,
Yeah, exactly. Right. So,
I'm gonna say if he wouldn't have been limited on that BMW, he would have killed him.
yep. Yep. Well, and that's always the question, though, too. I mean, I think that is what makes motorcycle racing so great in almost any racing, but they are all different.
Yeah,
In your top boys, they're all the manufacturers are different and the riders are different. And so you can have an amazing rider on a crappy bike that produces okay. You can have an amazing rider on an amazing bike that does really well, or you can have a not so good rider on an amazing bike that does okay. And so you get that good mix, and then it's less watching, well, a little bit less watching racing and also deciphering like who is actually good and which bike is actually good. And that's so let me put this out there again. That's why I love the fantasy. You pick riders and you pick teams. So you can build your dream team. Right. And that's why I kind of actually wish that Moto America would do a fantasy of
and
some
just
sort.
like to make it competitive, you just have to not let anybody pick Gagne.
Yeah. Well, that's why they have the boosts, the turbos.
All right. Well, then I just turbo Gagne.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Grid Rival does the star. You can't do it on the most expensive guy anyway. So I guess there you go.
That's true. That's true.
I think, like you said, I do think Red America will be a good decider to see how the season will actually be.
So, in case you missed it, I did want to bring up one thing about MotoGP before we end this thing.
Okay.
It's old news, but you haven't said anything to me, I don't believe. I thought I would laugh and laugh and laugh to get your reaction in real time. But have you seen Pecco's latest statement he's in trouble for?
No,
I don't think we've talked about it.
I don't remember talking about it.
After the last race,
Mm-hmm.
Pecco was doing an interview
Okay.
on an Italian station, is my understanding. But
Mm-hmm.
one of these fine reporters went ahead and listened to some of the other interviews, combed some of the other interviews trying to find sound bites.
Right.
You didn't see what he said?
Mm-mm. Nope. And it's not really popping up. Some people refer to look for controversy.
No.
That might be him recovering from it.
Pecco said, this is not verbatim.
There needs to be a gap between factory and independent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said there needs to be a gap between the factory and the independent riders. He said the independent riders should be on worse. He said he kind of used it as an excuse for like safety.
Mm-hmm.
You want to stop all the crashes, you need to slow down the satellite teams to spread the
Right.
field out more.
Yep. It's an interview, not a. I can't read it. Dang it.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
in Italian.
Ah. Well, that means we'd understand it perfectly.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I forgot we're fluent Italian speakers.
Yeah.
What do you think
Yeah.
about that? What say you?
So I mean, he says I can just reading here. It says 6th or 7th, 10th advantage. What?
So MotoGP for the last 20 years has been working on how to make it competitive and fun to watch and all those kind of things. They've done a way better job than F1.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, F1 fans. But
It's true.
MotoGP is the product that they're putting out right now, aside from maybe some aerodynamics making it hard to pass potentially and some things like, I mean, they still pass though. And we're getting
Yeah.
different winners every week. We've got
Yep.
winners putting them on the ground from,
I mean, if
point
nothing
scoring.
else, dudes are throwing their bikes in the gravel. So if
Yeah,
you're like a NASCAR fan and you're a NASCAR fan for the wrecks, get over to MotoGP because they're there. I'm
absolutely.
not happy about it, but they're there. So
For him to come out now, is the pressure getting to him? And he's like wanting to pop off with some excuses on because he's on a factory bike, so he wants to go back to the days where the same guy won every race every week, as long as that guy's him. I've told you before, like I like Pecco, but there's some
yeah.
chinks in the armor, if you will. I know you don't. There's certain aspects of him that you don't respect or enjoy or like or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
I argue with you.
Yeah.
But that comment right there, I went, whoa, how you should want to win I mean, come on, he's acting like he's riding a Harley Davidson. They got to make rules to make sure that he can win.
If you are the world champion, let's go back to your book. Envision the win. If you are the world champion and
Jim Mines.
you're here
Jim
to
Mines.
defend your title, you should be willing to say, put everyone on my bike. I am the better rider.
Agreed.
Right? That's what it should be. That should be your level of confidence. That should be your level of riding.
But it's
If you are
just,
the world champion, that is the top motorcycle rider in the world.
but it's not just that. How did you get there?
Yeah.
You
You were
drove
on a
a Pramac
yeah.
Ducati.
Mhm.
Thank God they thought enough of you to give you the same power as the other guys, or you'd still be riding a Pramac.
Yeah. True that cuz I mean, it's like everyone's saying that this is going to be Alex Marquez's year to show, if people stop wrecking into him anyway, to show that he is a championship rider because he's on a better bike now. If you that's I'll have to go and actually watch the interview and get back to you again.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna love it.
that just hearing about that, no.
The
What?
I think it was the head of KTM. They asked him to comment on it, and he said a naughty word.
Interesting.
People are not happy with him about it, including inside Ducati. I think
That's funny.
it was a big no. He's been trying to do damage control ever since,
Mhm.
but he should, because that was a dumb comment in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's no way that the sport's not better. I always say, for those that don't know, but for those that don't know, if you go back 15 years, there was 5 guys that could win a race
Mhm.
in the whole field, and everybody else was just fill-in riders. And those 5 guys would win every week, whatever. But now, and when you read his comments, you'll see there's more to that comment than just the end. He
Mhm.
said when they line up, he was saying it as a negative. He said that when they line up, every bike on the grid has a chance to win, and that's not right. And I went, whoa. It sounds to me like MotoGP has made the most amazing motorsports series in history.
Yeah.
For to be able to line up in last place and think you got a shot to win,
Yeah.
that's exactly what the fans are looking for.
Yeah. Well, and it's true. Brad from 15th to 5th
Yeah, I mean, there's some
a
guys
few
out there
weeks
that are
ago.
never going to win a race,
Well,
but
I'm just saying, like,
they could.
yeah. And it's no, there's absolutely zero reason to ever take that back
No,
because
we're in
that's
the right
awesome.
spot when it
The
comes to
fact that
that. We're in the right spot now.
we start and I don't even know how to put it, but just like you said, I don't actually know. I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time because if it weren't for the wrecks, could you imagine? If
Right,
as many people weren't wrecking out as they could, I mean, Bezecchi, right? We were looking at him at the end of last year. He's pulling through this year, but Bagnaia is right there with him.
right.
Jorge Martin's a 1 or 2 lap wonder. We're doing sprints this year. That's his game. Jack
Yep.
Miller's right there. Brad Binder, for some odd reason, pulled out a KTM out of nowhere. Marc Marquez is back without injury. You've got the rest of Honda that's useless. Anyway, the two
Whoa,
Aprilia boys.
whoa.
Well, anyway, the two
It's
Aprilia
true, but
boys
whoa.
arguably could come out either weekend and maybe win, maybe not. And then all of the rest of the Ducatis. And I hate Ducati for having so many bikes on the grid, but at the same time, it
You
absolutely
okay?
evens
Let's
up the
fix
playing
that.
field.
No, let's fix that right now. You need to stop with that.
No,
Thank Ducati.
no.
If Ducati didn't have 8 bikes on the field, we might not have a
8
sport to watch
bikes.
anymore.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. In that case, thank you, Ducati, for supplying the world with Italian speed and everything else that you've ever done. Valentino Rossi and Pirelli, and yeah, you're great. 8 bikes.
I would much rather have a couple
Suzuki has
BMWs. I know you
0.
said leave the green bikes home, but
Uh
I'd
huh.
be much happier with 2 BMWs, 2 green bikes, and the Suzuki's back in the field. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put an MV Agusta out there.
Uh,
Why
those
not?
bikes look great.
They're fast too.
They look great.
They're fast on Wednesday afternoons, and then they're back in the shop again.
They're fast. Yeah, they're fast. I
Most of
would
the
buy an
shop
MV
problem,
Agusta.
listen, MV Agusta, most of the shop problem is not that they really need a lot of work. It's just that when they do need work, you have to put them on a slow boat, ship them home,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
wait for them to get fixed, and ship them back.
Yeah, or they sit in a Kawasaki dealership waiting for that boat to get over here. Usually about 8 to 12 weeks. for a part.
Yep.
And
Unless the COVID hits, and then you got supply chain issues, and we turn
yeah,
that to 8 months.
yeah. Anyway, MV Augustas are great, beautiful. They aren't slow. Don't get me wrong. Definitely
They
not
got
slow.
too many exhaust pipes sticking out the tail.
Oh, I love it.
That's
Exactly how it should be. It's like when you open an old Beamer inline 6 and you've got an individual throttle bodies for each cylinder. I love that.
yeah,
Absolutely
much.
love it. No.
Keep it simple, stupid. That's what I say.
Nope.
You like Dodges then? You're a Dodge fan?
Heh.
Well, they put like multiple spark plugs on every cylinder for no reason.
So when I think Dodge, I just think Cummins. So you lost me. Sorry.
They have a
You're-
whole nother sector in
Yeah. Well, they might as well not anymore. Anyway,
Hey, it relates. They put a Viper motor in a motorcycle once, so that we can talk about them on a motorcycle podcast.
there we go. You get it. Yeah. Well, and Diesel Brothers made a motorcycle out of a cement mixer. So
We don't want to talk about those guys. Now we've gone too far. We better end this thing.
all right. Well,
What do we got coming up?
so Moto America again next week, obviously, kind of back to back for us, 2 weeks apart for them, but due to awesome Germany trip, back to back, and then MotoGP the week after that. I'll be getting the Aprilia rebuilt hopefully this week, maybe next week. They'll be on the lookout for that.
We're ticking a couple more weeks closer to the track day circus.
Track Day Circus once again.
Still not sponsoring us, but we're sponsoring them.
We are here. Buy your tickets. Go to Track Day Circus.
Come and see us.
Yeah, we'll be out there. Apex Assassins out there. Legion Motorsports or Legion Track Days, I guess, is the other one that'll be out there. Yeah, come say hi. If nothing else, even if you don't buy tickets to ride, come hang out. Bunch of stuff going on. Said it before. We'll keep saying it. Come visit for one day or both days. It's 4th of July weekend, so there's definitely plenty to do in and around UMC. And I'll say it one more time. I think we've got Ken Hill to back us up here on this one now. It's the UMC perimeter, maybe the last time ever offered. There are people, wink, wink, nod, nod, that are trying to make it so that's not true at some point in the future. But as for the foreseeable future, last time the perimeter may be offered at UMC. So if you're looking for a great track that is one of a kind and an amazing experience, Track Day Circus is your venue.
Absolutely. We appreciate everybody that's subscribed. Like to ask that you subscribe if you haven't. Follow us on JKMoto Instagram as well.
JKMoto Podcast. Yep.
JKMoto Podcast.
Yep. And if you're not on YouTube and you're on any other platform, go ahead and hit that follow button. We'll be here every week. We're not leaving anytime soon. So we're not going to be one of those ones that has 9 episodes and dips out because they don't know how to count to 10. We're going to make 10 and many more. I think that's
yes. So one last thing.
Yeah.
One last thing, and then we're ending this.
Okay.
So this is looking a little long, this podcast.
Yeah.
So the first person that comments what? I'm going to give away a free JKMoto t-shirt to the first person that listened to this podcast long enough and comments on YouTube with
Metzler MV Augusta.
Metzler MV Augusta. I'm sending out a free t-shirt.
Go ahead, comment that, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, send us a DM, and we'll get your info and get you a t-shirt sent over.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks for being here. We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.